Hey, I'm James, and welcome to Alternate Sides, a podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship. In this episode, we're riffing on two movies about musicians, Bertrand Tavernier's Round Midnight and Alex Cox's Sid and Nancy. Like me and Sam, they have some things in common, despite having wildly different basic energies. I think I might be the Sid and Nancy of our friendship, but I'll leave that for you to decide. Along the way, we also get into burned-out cars, slow television, and the unhelpful advice Robert Redford used to get. Here we go. Whoa.
Do you see this? Do you see this?
Yeah, I see you're making a ridiculous face. And also, I see your breath.
Oh, it's so cold. I'm sitting in the car. It's so cold. We got to come up with a better concept so that I don't freeze during these recordings.
That's true. We got a couple of months.
We didn't account for the winter. Yeah, we didn't account for the brutal polar vortex that's about to descend upon us.
I was thinking of you the other day when we had a bit of a wintry mix here in Philadelphia.
The wintry mix. We had one too. It didn't really stick. Get this though. Get this. Walk out of my apartment building this morning with Wilder to walk to his school, and in New York, around this time, all the Christmas trees start to pile up on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So they were like I guess they were like a pile of 4 or 5, 6 Christmas trees right outside our building.
Mm-hmm.
So we come out this morning, and the Christmas trees have been burned. And there's just the charred trunks left. Everything's burned. But in front of the Christmas trees, a white Subaru has been completely burned out.
Oh, wow.
Like the flame I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know if someone just like flicked a cigarette and it happened and no one knows about it. I have no idea. But like, if you came downstairs and it could have been this. It could have been the end of our show.
Better watch out. Maybe they're looking for other Subarus.
They're trying to burn all the Subarus.
What? This is right in front of your apartment?
Literally right in front. Where, if you're very lucky, you get to park.
I have actually parked in that spot once or twice.
There you go. You could have.
Wow, that is something else.
It's gutted. It's absolutely black and gutted.
It's like something you might see in the movie Sid and Nancy.
Very smoothly done, Jimmy. Very smooth.
One thing up front, which I didn't realize, is that Roger Deakins shot Sid and Nancy.
Deakins, yeah, a young Rog. That's right. I didn't know that either until the credits rolled. I was excited to see his name, but I had thought this film looks a lot better than it ought to. You should give a little preamble. We're talking about 2 movies today.
Yeah, it's a double feature. 2 movies from 1986, 2 movies about musicians, 2 movies about, if you'll forgive me sounding a bit like a PSA, the pitfalls of drug and alcohol use.
Just say no, kids. Just say no.
It's so interesting to me to have these 2 movies come out in the same year because there are sort of eerie parallels and contrasts. So Sid and Nancy, it's about Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols, icon of the punk movement, his girlfriend Nancy, and their doomed love affair. And it's very gritty and energetic and punk and rah!
That's right.
And then we have Round Midnight,
the rather more genteel version,
languid and laconic and elegiac, taking place in Paris in the 1950s, starring real life jazz icon Dexter Gordon as a kind of, I guess, composite character of Lester Young and Bud Powell, two great jazz musicians of an earlier era. And I don't know which we start talking about first. In Round Midnight, I guess he's in his 60s. He's obviously a hugely influential figure, but on the down slope and ravaged by years of alcohol abuse. And he goes to Paris to kind of he doesn't really go to find himself. He kind of goes to he goes because he's in trouble. I think the Bud Powell story is that he ends up in Paris because he's been in trouble with the law. They lose the cabaret card. This was a time when
the police were taking away all the black musicians' cabaret cards, wouldn't let them perform. And so a lot of them did end up in Europe. I think Bud Powell had a lot of mental health issues as well.
Dexter Gordon himself was in Europe for it at one point, wasn't he?
And yeah,
in Scandinavia
exactly.
somewhere.
That's right. That's right. I'd say right off the bat, the thing that I appreciate about both these movies, because they're both biopics, is that they don't do the soup to nuts biopic, which I always think is a big pitfall. And so many people fall into this trap of trying to tell the whole life in the movie.
Little Sid Vicious down the estates and getting into trouble. Yeah,
exactly. I think it's the problem. It's the problem with Oppenheimer. We start far too early and end far too late. Just pick a moment.
Regarding Oppenheimer, it's like 3 movies crammed into one. I personally don't need any of that early. Is it Cambridge that he's at? Any of that stuff? And
kind of cyanide rubbish.
Ken Branagh, Apple, whatever.
Who cares?
Well, John Adams, the composer, wrote an opera called Dr. Atomic, which is all about Oppenheimer. And it's basically all around the couple of days leading up to the Trinity test.
Which is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
By far. That sequence is extraordinary.
I happened to be on YouTube last night. Well, I'll tell you like kind of a funny thing. I watched Round Midnight a couple of nights ago, and I watched Sid and Nancy last night. And I kind of wish I'd watched them in the opposite order, just because Sid and Nancy is so much about like youth and anger and energy or whatever. And Round Midnight is this kind of late elegiac sort of vibe to it. But anyway, so I watched Sid and Nancy, and then I wanted to recapture some of that Round Midnight feeling. So I got on YouTube to find a clip from the movie, and I came across Siskel and Ebert's review of the movie. And Siskel, I think it is, makes the exact same point you're making, which is that it's not, well, he says 2 things. One, this thing of like, we don't get this whole soup to nuts story from childhood and the whole life.
Yeah.
We get a period. And 2, well, he says it's about Round Midnight. You were saying it about both movies. But number 2, in Round Midnight, you get the music. You actually get to have a few minutes of playing.
Well, what about that band? I mean, holy shit. You got Herbie Hancock, who did the music and the arranging for this, who's always on the piano just over his right shoulder.
He's such a badass too, Herbie.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've got the band in Paris. But I will say, when later in the movie, when they go to New York and Marty Scorsese shows up, he's amazing. Fantastic.
He's such a blowhard.
He's so good. He's so good. The bit in the cab where he's talking about, well, Paris, yeah, sure. But I like New York. People are tougher. Music's tougher. People are tougher. Life is tougher. He's such a dick. But when he says, we've got a great band. We got a great band for you. And then you show up and it's
Tony Williams, right?
It's Tony Williams, Ron Carter, Herbie Hancock, and Fred Hubbard. I mean, it's like the best band you could possibly imagine in the world. So he's not kidding. And what I love is that they do play, and you can always tell, because this is a pet peeve of mine. I'm sure it bothers you. Any musician who sees fakery, it's just annoying to see people strumming away or blowing when they're not. And everything that you see is actually being played and being recorded, I think.
Funnily enough, my brother-in-law, Andy, does an amazing impression of someone playing the piano if his hands are visible. So like if he's sitting behind the grand piano and you're across the room, whatever, his body movements and facial expressions, he'll do this thing where...
But he has no idea how to play the piano.
If he sat at a player piano and did that, you would 100% think that he was actually playing.
Well, more actors should learn from Andy, because I've seen a lot of things that bugs you, and this doesn't have any of that. Speaking of the biopics, I like it when a film takes a point of view. I remember when you and I, when we first met, one of the things that we bonded over was Glenn Gould. And one of the first movies this is why I thought you'd seen movies, is because you had seen 32 short films about Glenn Gould. And what's fantastic about that movie, of course, is that you never see this guy play the piano.
Right.
And same with a movie that one day you and I will sit in the movie theater and watch together, Andrei Rublev, the Russian icon painter. You never see him do any painting. Yeah, it's going to be 3 hours. Set yourself some good amount of time.
32 short films about Glenn Gould is great. I'd like to rewatch that sometime.
But I love these films where they take a real point of view. And these two films do that. They're like and they're different. Obviously, the Sid and Nancy one is interesting because I'm not a big punk guy, as you know. I've never owned a Sex Pistols record. I've never once. I know a lot of the songs, but I've never gone, oh, you know what? Let's put on.
You don't reach for it.
I've never reached for it. It's more of a feeling, I feel like, than it is about the music. I mean, fucking Sid Vicious can't play for shit, can he?
No.
He's not very good. Most of the time, it doesn't seem like his bass is even plugged in.
Now, there are many conversations around that, I guess, in the film and in real life. And the idea is he's sort of kept on because he's just this force of energy that the crowd responds to.
But that's what punk is. It doesn't matter that you're not very good at the music.
Yeah.
What matters is that you look like a fucking lunatic.
Unlike jazz, where you really cannot fake it. I mean, at least when you get to a certain level, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think you've studied and played a lot, but I don't think you would feel comfortable sitting in at the Vanguard, for example, for even one tune.
That's the stuff of nightmares.
It really is. I literally have had that nightmare. And now, ladies and gentlemen, joining the trio, James Levino.
When she just walks up and goes,
yes.
What did she say? Like,
she
how
says,
long has this been going on?
How long has this been going on? B flat. And Herbie's like, yeah, no problem. Not only do I know that song, of course, from memory, but I'll play it in whatever key you want. And I'll play like this intricate, beautiful intro and everything right off the bat.
Those guys are musicians. Fuck. Yeah, there's no the music, there's no comparison. But there is something undeniable about the feelings.
Maybe you should talk a little bit, because you were there, at least in sort of like me and Rocky. I was there, but not really conscious. but you know what London and England was like in the late 70s.
Well, I was too young really to be able to give any sense of London in the 70s. I was, 4 years old at the end of the 70s. But there is a feeling on the streets of London which persists till today. I just came back, as you know, from London. We spent the Christmas break over there, and we were on this bus. Coming back from a nice Indian restaurant, and with my family, it was like 6-7 of us. We were on this bus. We were coming back, and the bus driver stops at one point. We're up on the top deck. It's a double decker. The kids love, being at the front of the double decker. You get to see everything. So the bus driver stops, and there's a few people get on, and then one person doesn't get on. And I guess, and Wilder's kind of looking out the window, and the driver basically wasn't letting this guy on because he was drunk, and he had a bottle or something, and he starts to pull away, and the guy hurls the bottle and smashes the side window of the bus, just completely shatters all. The bus has to stop. Oh fuck! Everybody out. Okay, sorry, mate. This has got to go. Bus has got to go back to the depot. It's over. Some twat's broken the glass. Okay. That kind of drunk, angry, I'll fucking have it. Exactly. That kind of like aggro is something that you still sense. I get that sense much more palpably in London than I do in New York, a city where there is exponentially more murders committed per year,
No, I agree. From my time in London, you're never going to get shot in London, but you're much, much more likely to get punched in the face.
Oh, definitely. Shoved around. That guy wants a kicking. That guy wants a fucking kicking. It's a weird thing, right? So I think that does linger from the time of the 60s, 70s.
It feels like similar in America to a certain sense, that like the promise of the post-war boom kind of ran itself out, in America too, sort of stagflation, the 70s, like this kind of like...
Yeah, the 70s, everyone went bankrupt, right? The IMF was called in to rescue Britain in the 70s. Yeah, the money ran out, and you could see it. You could see it on the streets. Anyway, I don't know a lot. I really don't know anything about Sid Vicious's life, and I never, outside of this movie, I've never known who Nancy. I still don't know what her last name is.
Spungen.
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 That's a terrible name.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about them, but it's just this sort of, it's a love story.
A doomed love story.
A doomed love story, exactly, between these two people just burning out, more and more and more desperate. I did think while I was watching this movie, of all the movies we've watched so far, and maybe this, you tell me if this is true or not, I thought this would be the most difficult for you to watch. Because it feels like the most emotionally raw.
I don't think anything could be more emotionally raw than the Fanny and Alexander, the widow, just screaming in the night after her husband dies in grief. Like, that is so direct.
It's true. It's true.
But that's just in terms of rawness. I don't know. I thought, one thing I thought about these two, kind of both of the two movies, but definitely Around Midnight, is it feels like a 70s movie. To me, it feels like one of those older, like, it's a very quiet story. It's, you know, I don't know about, like, you might say the way it's shot. There is one fancy camera move near the end where they...
Yeah.
But anyway, it does feel like that. It's kind of very small. It's about characters. It's quiet. Just, I don't know, it sort of had that flavor to me.
It also has a lot of, especially the first half of it, it's all in this weird set. And
yeah, like that street is so obviously a set.
It's so weirdly done. I wonder where they shot that. Maybe in America. And it has this feel of out of time. Like, I much prefer the stuff when you can see they're in Paris. It has a much more real vibe to it. That street and that whole thing makes it feel much more like a fairy tale.
Right.
Somehow. Where and Sid and Nancy does this too. They play with the spaces and the rooms that they're living in, the houses, the rooms, the venues even. They give them deacons that makes them come to life in a way. That bit with it just kind of looks like a video with the lights, all those the neon lights.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of work's gone into not just making it like, you know, Mike Leigh kind of drama on the kitchen sink drama on the streets kind of thing. It is elevated. Both have a very specific...
But I think Mike Leigh, like, Naked would be much more difficult for me to sit through than this. So there was something about this that felt like too much, or like a certain distance. Maybe it's just the way that, like, violence in the 80s like feels...
So you were able to push it away.
What hit me the most was when she dies. So that, like, she keeps asking him to kill her, and they sort of have this quasi-suicide pact or whatever.
Yeah.
And they get into a fight, and he grabs a knife, and then it's unclear whether it's intentional or accidental, but she ends up getting stabbed, and then she sort of bleeds out. She, like, in the middle of the night, gets out of the bed, and the bed is just covered in blood. It sort of reminded me of that scene from Barton Fink with Judy Davis. But anyway, she gets out, and then she just dies on the bathroom floor, and then
that's very harsh.
The shot. Yeah, that was the moment that was like, oof.
It's also like the sound when she falls, the sound of her falling on the tiles. It's like, and it's just like, just hold,
kind of on this master shot with, like, just her body. Yeah. No music, no kind of nothing, just a long...
Yeah.
That's pretty sad.
The issue for me with Sid and Nancy is that Gary Oldman, from the first shot of this movie, he's like, this guy has come prepared. Like, this guy is plugged in. It starts with just a shot of him staring blankly. It's after that. It starts after that murder scene. So he's just like catatonic, sort of, and the cops come in and they're looking, and he's just staring. From that first moment, when you see him, you're just like, what's going on with this guy? Like, something is definitely happening with this guy. And throughout the film, he never lets it up. It's one of the great performances, I think. I think he's really, really extraordinary in this movie. And it almost hurts the movie in a sense, because he's the only one I believe. I don't believe the other people, like the Johnny Rotten character. He just feels like he's pretending to be punk. He's pretending to not give a fuck and to be, hey, yeah, fucking a bit of this, a bit of that. Like, nobody convinces me, like Gary Oldman convinces me that he means it. And the Nancy even, like, she's kind of good in certain scenes, but she's not up to him where he is. And so for me, I'm like, every time I'm watching Gary Oldman, I'm just like struck by, holy shit, this guy's how is he doing this? This is ridiculous. He's so plugged in. But with the others, I was always like, well, not quite. And on the other hand, in Round Midnight, Dexter Gordon's is not really a performance. Dexter Gordon is Dexter Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I don't think that any actor could do what Dexter Gordon does. I mean, putting aside playing the actual music and the saxophone, whatever, which they couldn't do, but just the tempo.
Yes, there's so much space. He's so slow.
It reminded me of like old professors or like there's a couple of old guys in our family, like that you would meet them that had wisdom. And when you asked them a question, they wouldn't just answer. They'd look around. Oh, Lady Francis. Like,
that's very good, actually. Wow.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta go. I think it's time for me to go. And it's just like, what? What are you talking about? Or when he's talking about the earth, the world isn't. You know what bothers me is that the world is not in anything, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Like the heart is in the body, the heart and the soul. The child is in the mother. Everything is in something, but the world is in nothing. Like this kind of thing that he just obviously that no one wrote that.
Not the world. It's not the world is not in anything. It's the world is in nothing.
The world is in nothing.
Which seems to me like a little bit more interesting. I don't know if that's my memory of it. He also says at one point, he's like, you don't just go out and pick a style off a tree one day. The tree is inside of you, growing naturally.
Right. I love the scene with the psychiatrist where he's talking and he's like, I have this is it. I wake up, I go to sleep, it's music. The only thing, it's so clear that the only thing that matters is the music. He's there to do the music. And everything else is a bit of a drag. Everything else, like it's a beautiful moment when he wakes up in bed. He's gotten sober. He's cleaned up because the French guy is looking after him and he's trying to be good for them, trying to clean his act. And he has. And then he's in bed one night and he can't sleep. And he's done all the right things. And you can just see that he's disturbed. And he gets up and he just like rubs his face and goes, wow, why? And that's all it is. It's just like, why? Like, why can't I just be left in peace? Like, why can't my demons leave me alone? So I don't think, so in terms of performance, I think that Dexter Gordon's performance is extraordinary, but I also don't think of it as a performance. Right. Whereas I think in like a craft sense, what Gary Oldman does in that movie is bonkers. Like it's utterly insane how he gets there and holds it for that long.
It's funny, just by coincidence, I happened to rewatch a couple of the Harry Potter movies over the holidays. They sort of feel like holiday movies to me, but we rewatched them with the kids, and of course we have a family connection to them because Molly worked on them, and Gary Oldman is in that as Sirius Black, and at the same time we're also watching Slow Horses, and it's just incredible to think that like. Number one, my thought is like, that's the same dude, and he's still killing it. Oh, yeah. He is just firing on all cylinders, throwing the high heat. He's definitely still. Oh yeah. I saw an interview with him, and he said in the interview, he had said before he got offered Slow Horses to his like agent, like, I want something where there like aren't a lot of costume changes. I can use my own accent. It's not whatever. And then this role comes along, but he said. One thing I thought you would appreciate is his favorite actor, one of our favorites as well, Hackman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said he loves...
That's so good.
He said, naturally, there are others. He said, of the younger people, the people working today, Kate Winslet, I think, is really special.
Yeah.
He said Hackman. And then he said, because you and I talked about Oldman once before, and the idea that he's sort of outside... He's not one of these people that's like showing up at the awards show and doing this and
yeah.
He sort of kept himself separate.
I think that's a big part of it. I think that a big part of his ability to continue to be interesting and pick parts that are interesting and deliver performances that are interesting is that he probably continues to live an interesting life. He's not like some guy in LA. We've talked about this before, where like the people who LA is dangerous for an aging actor, because every bit of LA is telling that actor that they're becoming irrelevant, that they're becoming.
You've heard this first or second hand.
The most famous example I heard of it was early days when we were making Cry Funny Happy with Amy Redford, whose dad is Robert Redford, and she was like, "You wouldn't believe the things that like Bob Redford's agents and team are telling him about like how what he should really be doing in order to stay relevant, or how he's not worth anything." It's basically diminishing the value of this guy. And this is fucking Robert Redford. Like, like, okay, he's older, sure. He's no longer, going to be playing the Sundance Kid, but Jesus Christ, he was the icon. He was the star forever and ever. And I think that if you stay in that world, they eat you up. And people like Anthony Hopkins, and the other great guy from the Harry Potter is Michael Gambon, one of my favorites.
Well, I agree with all that. And one thing about that being on the scene or whatever is the interviewer asked him about Nil by Mouth, which was the one movie that he directed, Gary Oldman, and sort of said, such a powerful movie, obviously drawn on some of your own experiences. Why haven't you made another movie? And he says, well, it's not for lack of trying. And
oh, really?
He kind of, Oldman sort of tied it into the like awards and all this stuff. And he says, you've got to sing for your supper. And I don't want to do that.
Right. It's really interesting. I didn't know he'd tried to make other movies, because you would have thought because it was a very well received movie.
Well, he's also strikes me as somebody who's maybe not as willing to compromise as some other people. He's said some things over the years that have been.
I think that's probably
that have
true.
rubbed people the wrong way.
Have you seen that movie? Have you seen Nil by Mouth?
He also has been married 5 times, which I don't want to jump to conclusions, but probably is a tell of some kind.
Have you seen Nil by Mouth?
No. That seems like a movie that would be difficult.
Oh my God! Well, that'll be coming up at some point. That's going to get listed. That's a hard movie to watch. Fucking hell. Oh, the sun's come out.
Do you think these are great movies? Good movies?
So Round Midnight was a movie that was very, very like important in my life. No, I don't think it's I wouldn't put it on a top 10 list of movies, but for me, when I saw it, there was a lot of parallels. I spent some time in Paris. I loved jazz. I was obsessed with these guys. The other thing we should say about both these movies is that they're actually both love stories. The Round Midnight is also a love story between this guy, Lady Francis, who looks after Dale
We should say he's not actually a lady. He's Francis is a man, but Dexter Gordon has this way of calling everyone Lady Ace, Lady Francis, Lady Song.
Lady Ace.
Yeah.
But it was a real romantic, idealized in a way. I mean, it's doomed, and they're all on drugs and drink, and it's a mess. Their lives are a mess. But there was a real romance to that movie, and the way that they talked about the music, the way that the music was their life, was something that I really responded to when I saw the movie. I hadn't seen a movie that seemed so accurate about that kind of a life.
Well, they're artists. They're honest to God artists, and
they don't do well. It's interesting.
That's true to life as well. They're all scraping by.
So I don't know. So that movie was very, very. It kind of stuck with me for a long time. Sid and Nancy I saw once when I was a kid, and I was like, oh God, that's too much. And then now watching it, the thing that I take away from Sid and Nancy now is the Oldman performance. I think it is one of the great performances, honestly. I think it's like so intense and so, he's extraordinary. So I don't know if it's a great movie, but.
Is it time to talk about movies from 1987?
I think so. Why not?
Movies from 1987. I have to say, I've been really looking forward to this moment, and also sort of dreading it, because I think this is going to be very, very difficult to choose.
Oh, exciting!
Yeah, it's a good. Okay. It's a year of interesting, good movies, and movies that I think we could spend a lot of time talking about. 1987, 8th grade to 9th grade for me. My grade school was K through 8. So I was like in a small city school, and the 9th grade I went to high school. But I remember it was like just a big year for me, I guess. Starting to have confusing feelings about my older sister's friends in high school.
Yeah, you were more advanced than I was. I was wearing the Bumblebee tracksuit and reading Teach Yourself Harmonica upstairs in my bedroom.
You got there in the end.
That's debatable. Margie might have some questions.
I don't know if this, I think my sister knows this, but I eventually did lose my virginity to one of my older sister's high school friends, which I think
you're saying knows. You don't. You think she knows? That's definitely going in.
Well, I don't know if we've ever really talked about it. It's sort of an awkward thing to talk about, but I guess I'm making my confession here. That
oh, brilliant!
And it involved Chardet's Smooth Operator, also tangentially, but anyway, a very exciting year, 1987. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Here are some movies I have seen from 1987. Some classics in here. The Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah.
Full Metal Jacket. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, we just watched that recently with Wilder. Fantastic.
The First Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the cinema.
RoboCop, which I only saw for the first time a couple months ago.
Oh, that would have been the one. Yeah, you'd never seen RoboCop until recently.
One of my favorite movies, a very important movie to me in my college years, Wings of Desire, Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire.
Is that 87? Oh, that's a great movie. I would have thought that was later. Okay.
Here are movies I have not seen. 1987. We're going to get into it. They are sort of up and down. Predator.
How have you not seen Predator?
That's one that we won't pick that, but it's just an idea of like, you know, everyone my age has seen Predator. Every American boy my age seems to have seen Predator.
It's unfathomable to me that you haven't seen Predator. Predator was good. I think I saw it again not like too long ago. I've probably seen Predator 20 times.
Wow. You won't get those hours back.
Definitely won't.
Raising Arizona.
Wait, you've never seen Raising Arizona? You kept that quiet when we did Blood
It's the only
Simple.
other Coen Brothers film I haven't seen. Well, no, I don't think I've seen The Lady Killers. Did they direct The Lady Killers or just write that? But
I don't know, it wasn't very good.
How about With Nail and I?
You've never seen With Nail and I? Jesus Christ. How, like, that's a hard movie to avoid. I mean, maybe not here, but like, you almost can't go to university in England without having watched fucking With Nail. It's every Friday night. It's on someone's television. You'll just watch it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a front runner right now.
A French movie, Au revoir les enfants.
Au revoir les enfants. Who made that?
Yeah, I figured you would be all over that one.
I've seen it. It's not, what's his name? It's not Carax. Who is it?
Louis Malle.
Oh, well, les enfants. Oh, Louis Malle, that's right. Yeah, it's a nice movie. I'm not like obsessed with it or anything. Well, we're going to get to Louis Malle with Vanya. Vanya on 42nd Street will be our Louis Malle movie.
That's a movie I remember seeing on Laserdisc a lot at Kim's Video when I lived in New York.
But you didn't see it. You just saw the disc.
I didn't see. I think I might have even had the Laserdisc and never saw it.
So lame. What the fuck was wrong with you? Just sit down and watch it.
No, too scary. Do you know what we saw? What we did have on Laserdisc, which I saw a lot.
The rehearsal process
was Red. Was Kieslowski Red? A great movie.
Oh yeah, we've done No Kieslowski. Have you seen them all? Is that why?
Yeah, I haven't seen the whole Decalogue, but I've seen.
Have you seen Double Life of Veronique?
Yeah.
Oh, you have? That's a bummer. That's a good one. And you've seen Red, White, and Blue?
A couple times. I haven't seen White more than once, but I've seen Red and Blue 2 or 3 times each.
And you haven't seen I'm guessing you haven't seen the early Polish documentaries that you made?
I don't think I have.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome if you were like actually a real buff one.
Like with my Australian New Wave, I just happened to have this very deep, very narrow but very deep knowledge.
Appreciation for
the Louis Malle Au revoir les enfants is supposedly has something to do with where the title Reservoir Dogs comes from a mispronunciation.
That's right. That's what everyone called it that. Right?
Mm-hmm. No Way Out.
The Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
That would be my aunt's pick. She loves Kevin Costner.
She loves Costner as well as Gere?
Look, Kevin Costner and Richard Gere. She loves them both. She loves the handsome 80s guys. Yeah, she loves Kevin Costner. I think
Hackman's in that too, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a good movie, if I remember.
These are not landing as well as I thought. I thought that you would really be...
Well, they're good. I mean, look, Predator is shocking that you haven't seen. No Way Out is like Jagged Edge. These are movies that you should have seen, but it's not like... 40 years later, it's not like, oh, you've got to go back and see No Way Out and Jagged Edge.
Yeah. I understand. How about Where is the Friend's House?
That's good. That's very good. It's very early. I wouldn't have thought that these movies were so... I thought that was much later. So this is the Kiarostami movie. Kind of is the one that put him on the map, really. It's a great movie. You've seen... I'm just trying to think also futuristically. You've seen Close Up.
Yes.
And you've seen Taste of Cherry.
Yes.
Have you seen The Wind Will Carry Us?
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
Dirty Dancing.
Again, just difficult to imagine not having seen it. But
well, that's why I bring it up. I think some of these movies maybe would be interesting. That maybe they're not so much because they're like great films, but because of what they're kind of about and the period. I think Dirty Dancing would be interesting to watch because doesn't it all center around an abortion?
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, I saw it in 1987.
Okay. I think that could be a fun pick.
Okay.
Maybe that will be this season's Rocky. House of Games.
Oh, you've never seen House of Games? All right, that's jumped. That's good. The Mammoth. The Mammoth movie. Yeah, I love that movie.
I don't know. That makes me uncomfortable, that one. Because I feel it's got a lot of switcheroos and tension or something.
That's not what you want in a movie. Switcheroos and tension.
You know, they have these movies where it's just like the camera's on the front of like a train going through like the snowy mountains in like Norway, and it's like
slow film. Yeah, slow cinema.
Yeah, that's what I want to watch. All right, last one. I'm a little disappointed that these haven't landed as well as I thought. Fatal Attraction.
I mean, it's so insane that you have not seen fucking Fatal Attraction. Well, here's the thing. It's a question of what are we picking for? The most egregious gaps in your knowledge, I would suggest, are Predator, Dirty Dancing, Fatal Attraction, because they're just like culturally like milestones that it's just hard to imagine having grown up in the West and not have at that time not having seen them. You know?
Dirty Dancing and Fatal Attraction are still referenced in the culture today, right? Like no one puts baby in a corner or whatever. Isn't that from Dirty Dancing?
Yeah.
Bunny boiler, one of my favorite phrases.
Exactly.
Actually, let me walk that back. That's not one of my favorite phrases. It makes me sound like an insane person.
Okay, so yes. So if I had to pick based on that, I would probably pick Fatal Attraction, I guess. That's the most shocking in a way. Well, I don't know. They're pretty shocking. But the movies that I would like to rewatch and to talk about would be Raising Arizona or House of Games. Or Where is the Friend's House? But Where is the Friend's House is a bit of a deep cut, and I don't know that it's... I like to save one of his for maybe later on. That's the best movie probably on the list. Yeah, I guess we could do Fatal Attraction if you want to do that.
No Street Sweeper, huh?
No, he came by. He did come by and cleaned the other side of the street.
Okay.
It's weird.
The side that... isn't that the side that he would have also cleaned yesterday? Or
I don't know. Maybe I'm on the wrong side. I don't know what's going on today. Maybe I got it wrong.
All right, mate. I'm going to go make myself some breakfast. See you around.
All right, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's that. In our next episode, we take a stab at Adrian Lyne's psychological thriller, Fatal Attraction, starring Glenn Close and Michael Douglas. Check it out if you have a chance. See you next time.